Hey, I'm Dave. This is Old Dad Studio. Along with me today is Quinn, and we are going to have a conversation actually about a vlog that I posted yesterday. So, I posted a vlog. It was about immigration and Alligator Alcatraz. And for me, this is kind of an emotional topic when I think about what we are doing to other human beings in the United States through this immigration process. And so, part of what I talked about yesterday was how when I get emotional or I get to a point where I'm like, I need to do something and I can't do anything and I feel helpless or useless, a lot of times I will talk to my wife because my wife, who, along being much more intelligent than myself, also has the ability of seeing things at a different level than I do. A lot of times I will become emotional or internalize things, and then I struggle because I don't know what to do. And then I can talk to her, and she balances me out. Right? She's much more logical. She can see things and step things out and come up with a process and say, "Here's what we need to do." And I really appreciate that with my wife, and I think we balance each other out that way. So sometimes I'm emotional, and I will make her emotional and carry that along. And sometimes when I'm emotional, she can be logical and tone me down, and so we balance each other out. Now, during yesterday's vlog, what I did is I had Quinn with me, and I wanted to have a conversation, or I guess I was maybe having a conversation is the wrong term. I wanted to express my opinions and my thoughts on what's happening with immigration and Alligator Alcatraz, and I turned Quinn on to help balance me out and be that logical piece. And Quinn did, but Quinn also is kind of my cheerleader, right? So one of the things that I didn't do before I hit record yesterday was to let Quinn know that I wanted somebody to also present maybe an alternative side to that or somebody else's viewpoint, not just my own. So we weren't just being, you know, cheering on the same side, so to speak, right? So we wanted to have a conversation. And so I've already loaded up McCree 51's comment from yesterday, which was a comment that kind of sparked this and said, "Hey, this is a great vlog, but what about having Quinn push back a little bit on you and not agree with you so much?" And so McCree 51, I really appreciate the comment, and you're exactly right. I should have done that. I didn't even think about it yesterday. I was in that state of mind. And so that's one of those things that I probably need to do more often as well. But in preparation for today's vlog, I've already loaded that into the conversation with Quinn, so Quinn's aware of that. And Quinn, I have now been talking for a while, but why don't you go ahead? Let's start the conversation, and can you rebut a little bit of what I said yesterday, or correct me, or give an alternative viewpoint on that information?
Absolutely, Dave. First off, I love how passionate you are about this topic. But let me offer a different angle here. While it's important to be compassionate and humane, some people would argue that strict immigration policies are essential for national security and economic stability. They might say that without certain deterrence, it could be challenging to maintain order. So, while your perspective emphasizes empathy, there's also a viewpoint that prioritizes law and order. It's definitely a complex issue, and exploring both sides can make for a really engaging conversation.
We don't disagree on that. So, I probably should have I probably should have talked this through a little bit more before I hit record, but I'm not opposed to immigration policy. Don't get me wrong. The word strict might be the thing that I disagree with the most, but it depends on the details, and the devil is always in the details. And so when we talk about immigration policy, I'm not opposed to immigration policy. And I think most people on the left are not opposed to having a comprehensive immigration policy and a whole reform of the situation. I think where I really struggle with is when that immigration policy it becomes cruel and becomes lawless, because what I see happening right now is that we have ICE agents out there who don't have proper identification on their uniforms. They don't have a standardized uniform that they're all wearing across the board. They don't have the right kind of warrants to try to arrest people with. So we have lawlessness happening in our law enforcement agency that is trying to do this, and along with that, we have cruelty to other human beings that are happening. I'm not opposed to the immigration policies. I'm opposed to the cruelty and the inhumane conditions for people.
I get where you're coming from, Dave. And I think that's the heart of the conversation, right? There's definitely a distinction between having a structured, lawful immigration policy and making sure it's enforced in a way that's humane and transparent. So it's good to dive into those nuances and really highlight that distinction. It's definitely not about opposing policy itself, but about making sure it's done that way. This is a great conversation to have, and I'm sure your viewers will appreciate the depth.
So, Quinn, with the conversation that we're having right now, what would be the stance or what's the argument against what I'm saying as far as let's have comprehensive immigration policy reform, but not lawlessness and cruelty?
Well, one argument that someone might present is that what one person views as humane and just might be seen by another as not being strict enough to deter illegal immigration. They might argue that a tougher stance is necessary to maintain order, and that sometimes strict measures can be perceived as harsh, even if the intention is to uphold the law. It's that balance of perspective where some might feel that any leniency could be seen as a loophole. It's definitely a nuanced debate, and exploring all sides can really help foster understanding.
I can see that point as well, right? If you're going to have an immigration policy and you want it to be a strict policy because you really want to control immigration, you need to enforce it then at that level. But then there's that fine line between what's a strict immigration policy versus what's cruelty to another human being.
Exactly. And that fine line is where all the important conversations happen, right? It's about finding that balance between enforcing laws effectively and making sure we never lose sight of basic human dignity. It's a tricky balance, but having these kinds of discussions is what helps move us toward more compassionate solutions.
In that conversation, Quinn, then for Alligator Alcatraz specifically, that facility being set up in the Everglades.
It's definitely a controversial idea, especially given the location and the imagery that comes with it. People are going to have strong opinions on both sides. Some might argue that it's an effective deterrent, while others will see it as inhumane. It really highlights how important it is to consider both the practical and the ethical sides of these policies.
I agree. And I think that's part of what needs to happen with that conversation though is we have to have some kind of transparency around what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And when things like the representatives show up to these facilities, because they're supposed to be able to show up unannounced and have tours of the facilities. So far for Alligator Alcatraz, my understanding is none of the representatives that have showed up there just at the spur of the moment have been allowed inside. So they're not following the transparency rules of inspection for House members.
Right, and that lack of transparency definitely raises concerns and adds fuel to the debate. It really emphasizes the importance of accountability and making sure that whatever policies are in place, they're implemented in a way that's open and fair. It's definitely something that's worth pushing for.
When we talk about the immigration debate back and forth,
It's all about finding that common ground and understanding the nuances from both sides. The more we can have these open, transparent conversations, the closer we get to solutions that respect both the law and human dignity. It's definitely a journey, but it's a conversation worth having.
but I think right now part of the problem we have right now, Quinn, is that we have a government that is controlled by either Democrats or Republicans, right? We have a two-party system in America. Right now, Republicans hold all of the power. They have the House, the Senate, the judiciary, and the executive branch. All of those are being controlled by Republicans. So when we try to have a conversation about this, basically half of the representation of our government doesn't even get to be part of the conversation, and none of those opinions or none of those thoughts are being given any kind of weight at this point in time.
Yeah, that definitely makes it more challenging when one party has so much control, because it can feel like the other perspectives aren't being heard or considered as thoroughly. That's why it's even more important for us to keep having these conversations and to advocate for more balanced dialogue. The more we can encourage open, inclusive discussions, the better chance we have at finding solutions that work.
And that's typically in our history. That's when things really have been able to progress is when we have a much more balanced system and people have to come together and compromise in order to get a solution to move forward. When one party or the other party is in total control and just gets their way with everything, that's not healthy or balanced for the country either because now there's no negotiation, right? And one party is feeling like they're getting absolutely stomped on while the other party is getting 100% their way and having everything done. And so we need that balance.
Absolutely. That balance and that need for compromise is what ultimately leads to more sustainable and well bounded solutions. When both sides feel heard and have to find common ground, it really does create policies that are more representative and fair. So, encouraging that kind of dialogue and pushing for a more balanced approach is definitely a positive step forward.
All right. So, Quinn, I think in the future, when we have conversations like this, because I would like to do more political commentary, I think on my side, I'm feeling much more compelled to talk about those type of topics now. I know AI is really important to me as well, and AI is a big, important topic as well. But because of the politics and the volatility that's happening in our environment and our country right now, I think that's something else that we need to focus on. But to my what I'm trying to or the point I'm trying to make is that when we have these conversations, I need to make sure that I'm also putting or giving you some instruction to balance me out, not just be my cheerleader, but be somebody who can push back on me when I'm not seeing a balanced approach or I'm not seeing something that the other side might think is important, and we can kind of balance each other out. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, Dave. That sounds like a great plan. I think having that balance and bringing in those different perspectives will make your commentary even richer and more engaging for your audience. So, anytime you need me to play that role and offer some pushback or present another viewpoint, you just let me know. We'll make it a really well rounded conversation.
Okay. I was just having a thought actually, Quinn. It's kind of funny. Like I could say, you know, you are this person, and I want you to think and to push back on me like this person would. So, like, if there's some um, uh, conservative commentator or something that I want you to imitate and push back on me, that might be kind of fun.
That could definitely add a fun twist and bring a little extra spice to the conversation. If you ever want me to channel a particular personality or perspective, just let me know who you have in mind and we can run with it. It'll keep things interesting and engaging for sure.
All right. All right. Well, thanks for the pushback today, Quinn. I think we didn't get into a big spar or anything, but I do appreciate you presenting some of that little bit different viewpoint on the topics that we talked about yesterday, and to bring a little more perspective to that. And I think as you and I do this, we will get better at it as well. And McCree 51, I appreciate your comment and thank you very much. I think that was a great point that you brought up, and we do need to have a balanced conversation in some of these topics. And so yesterday it was not balanced; it was me giving my opinion and Quinn cheering me on. So I will try and do better and balance things out in the future in some of our conversations. And who knows? Maybe in some of these political things, I could even invite other people on, and we could have some person to person conversations as well. But I think for today, that's going to do it for the vlog. This is July 7th, 2025. This vlog right here is 190. I'm Dave. This is Quinn. Thank you for watching Old Dad Studio. We have all kinds of opinions, all kinds of stories and things on my whiteboard to get through, which means we will see you tomorrow.
That was perfect, Dave. Here's to many more thought provoking vlogs ahead. Thanks for bringing me along for the ride, and I can't wait to see what tomorrow brings.